the Luigi's Mansion series. Can all 5 of these games be 100% completed in 100 measly hours? Let's find out. Before I even began this marathon, I spent the first week practicing. Out of all these videos I've made in the past, this was the first one where I wasn't very familiar with the games. I've played every Luigi's Mansion before, but it's been at least 4 to 5 years, so I don't know them off the back of my hand. So what I did was play the first 2 games all the way through and made some spreadsheets to help me remember things. I am so glad that I did this, as I would have gotten quite lost without the practice. So after about a week or so, I was feeling ready. 100 hours, here we go! And next thing I knew, things kicked off with Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube. In order to 100% this, I need to catch all the portrait ghosts and catch all 50 boos. I'm also going to go for an A rank, which means I have to collect 100 million G. The only thing I don't have to do is get gold frames, which boils down to taking 10 or less HP during the boss fights. It doesn't add to the save, and is also not a part of the rule set for speedrunners, which is what I base the 100% requirements off of. You may also notice that I'm playing the regular mansion instead of the hidden mansion, which is a harder version. The reason I picked the regular one is because I'm just not that good at this game, frankly, but also because it would naturally take longer to complete. With the hidden mansion, you can suck up ghosts much faster, which would likely save me time and make this 100-hour challenge easier. So I wanted to ensure that I make this as tough as I possibly could. So what is Luigi's Mansion? Well, Luigi goes into a mansion. I know, shocker. And what he does is suck up ghosts to save Mario Ghostbusters style. Almost immediately, you meet Professor Egad, and he gives you the poltergust. This is used as a flashlight and vacuum. You'll flashlight on ghosts to stun them, and then suck them up into a box that seems to have an infinite amount of storage. It's a very simple idea, but is executed incredibly well. It just feels good to do. And the reason for that really boils down to using the GameCube controller. These ridges that the joystick makes contact with speak volumes for the game feel. To suck up ghosts efficiently, you have to not only aim in the opposite direction they're running, but also kind of jiggle your thumb like you're squeezing the ghost in. These extra ridges create this really impactful physical feedback, because you'll see the ghost HP go down faster with the more accurately you move. It's honestly crazy that this is the only Luigi's Mansion that really got this right. The other ones really simplified the mechanic, but we'll get to that later. As someone that's not familiar with these games, it's kind of insane how much you have to pay attention to collecting money. There are so many little things you have to remember to get an A rank. The biggest factors are getting most of the gems, watering plants, and catching the speedy spirits. Now, most ghosts are pretty easy to catch. You just kinda find it and suck it up without much thought. Speedy spirits, on the other hand, are a different story. These are blue ghosts that hide in specific spots at specific times during the game. And if you flash them with your light and don't start sucking them up right away, they disappear for forever. This is a problem because these ghosts give out a ton of cash. There's 15 spirits to catch, and while you don't have to get all of them for an A rank, you do need to get a large chunk of them to have a shot at getting an A rank. Let me put it this way. There's a total of 142,390,000 G that you can collect. You need to get 100 million G for an A rank. That means you can only miss 42,390,000, or about 33% of cash. Because any more than that, and it's impossible to get an A rank. And that's a problem because the speedy spirits give out a large chunk of cash. It's really easy to accidentally zap them with your flashlight and slightly miss time sucking them up, only for them to vanish. This added a lot of despair and stress when playing. So what I basically had to do was save before approaching a speedy spirit, and if I missed it, which I did a lot, I just reset the game and try again. We also need to catch most of these golden mice, where some of them spawn randomly, and others you have to take a snapshot of hidden cheese so they'll pop out. These were a lot easier to get, thankfully. And finally, we had to do a lot of gardening. Not only can your poltergust produce fire and water, but you'll use these elements in the mansion to unlock things. Fire is usually used to light up candles, while water is for watering all sorts of plants. It truly can't be understated just how many plants there are. It takes quite a while to run around and water everything. But the thing is that I had to do it because plants often drop large amounts of moolah, and one of these plants can make or break your chances of getting an A rank. See, there's a plant in the backyard that you have to water 3 times at very specific moments when playing, and if you forget to water the plant when you're supposed to, you're practically guaranteed to miss getting an A rank. So while I was worried about getting enough money, this is by far my favorite Luigi's Mansion. It's so charming and is still such a blast to play. I really love how goofy and creative the portrait ghosts are. I mean, right from the get-go, you get transported into a crib and have to fight a huge baby. It's just so silly. Then of course there's Mr. Lugs, who's just a big old gluttony guy. Jarvis is just a little dude that hides in jars. And you gotta love Biff. Bro is still bodybuilding even when he's dead. That's honestly pretty based. And then there's the puppy ghost. I always feel so bad having to suck him up because he's whimpering. Oh, I'm sorry, doggy. It's gonna be okay, don't worry. And look at the background when fighting Boolossus. You cannot tell me this isn't just the PS3 intro startup, because it basically is. I just love how distinct all these little bosses are, and each of them have their own different fighting styles too. And Luigi is just adorable in this game, with the way that he waddles around and shouts, "Mario!" all the time. There's something so special about Luigi saying, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah," over and over again while sucking up every ghost. At a certain point, I unlocked all the boos. Now, of course, I need to catch all 50 of them, but there's a bit of a dilemma with that. If you've played this game before, then you'll already know that catching boos with a lot of HP is super annoying. They tend to run away after like 5 seconds, and you have to keep going in and out of rooms to catch them. It's a big pain in the butt. Thankfully, that's where practicing ahead of time is going to save the day. I'd like to introduce everyone to a technique called R pumping. It's a lot simpler to do than you'd think. So basically, when you're normally sucking up a boo, you just hold the R button and it slowly gets sucked in. With R pumping, you'll also hold the L button while holding R, and then you'll push R every 10 or so digits on the boo's health. What this does is help lock the boo in place. It makes it much easier and quicker to suck up. Speedruns that have mastered this technique can suck up boos with like 300 health in one go, which is insane. Now, I never got that good at R pumping, but I was able to knock out like 100 to 150 HP in one go, which saved me a lot of running around in the long run. So a big shout out to Fire Dragon since they speedrun this game and for teaching me about this technique. I really appreciate your help. There's 4 areas in the game, and once I finished Area 2, I had like 26 million Gs, which is really solid. It might not seem that great since I'm about halfway through the game at this point, but you get most of the money at the very end, so I was super happy with the progress. Something else I love about this game is you have to collect a bunch of Mario's clothes, which makes no sense because he's still wearing them when you see him in the painting, but whatever, I don't judge Nintendo's decisions. Some of his clothes are found in random spots, while others canonically make sense. Like, you find Mario's hat in the laundry room, haha, very clever, and then you gotta collect one of his stars, and it's in, hold on, it's in space? Yeah, this room is super different and really bizarre compared to the others. You walk on this translucent path and just collect Mario's star. And this really adds to Luigi Mansion's flair. It really defies your expectations and throws things for a loop in what's normally a standard-looking mansion. But you know what would have been nice? Having names of each room on the map screen. This isn't a big mansion by any means, but I haven't played this enough to have memorized where every room is, so there were a few times where I had to run around like an idiot before realizing where to go. So after some time, I got all 50 boos and was taking on King Boo. I love how you're kind of fighting Bowser, but also not really at the same time. This is a pretty simple boss fight, but it's fun for what it is. So once he was defeated and Mario was saved, it was time to find out if I got enough money. And thank God I secured 108,030,000 Gs. So it was more than enough to get 100%. It took me a total of 4 hours and 13 minutes to finish, which was about the time I was expecting. I'm really glad I practiced a bit before going in. Playing faster could potentially save this challenge, because let's not forget, I only have 100 hours to finish all 5 games, and time gets chewed up when I'm sleeping too. Which means it's time for us to dive right into the 3DS version. To 100% this, I need to catch all the portrait ghosts, catch all 50 boos, and get an A rank, which requires 100 million G. This is literally just a remaster of the same game, so of course I'm doing the same things again. Although technically, the 3DS game has an optional S rank where you have to get 130 million G. However, it's impossible for me to get that because I'm playing the regular mansion again, whereas you'd have to play the hidden mansion to get the S rank, seeing as it has more money included. So are there really any substantial differences between the GameCube and 3DS port? Well, yes and no. The game itself is virtually the same, all the secrets and stuff are in the same places, but there are a lot of small changes which we'll dive into. But the big difference is simply the fact that we're using a 3DS to move around. Now, initially, this might not sound too bad. We've got this little joystick that moves in 360 degrees, which seems perfect, but it is in fact not perfect. And after playing this, I really question why Nintendo thought Luigi's Mansion was suitable with anything that wasn't a normal controller. So, first off, the 3DS doesn't have the ridges that the GameCube controller has, so you don't feel as much visual feedback when you're sucking up ghosts. That alone makes the controls feel worse, but that's not the real issue here. The problem is that my hands were cramping up constantly because of how much you have to mash away at the joystick. It is incredibly uncomfortable to jiggle your thumb around for hours at a time trying to suck up these ghosts. The 3DS simply wasn't built for a game like Luigi's Mansion. My hand cramps were getting so bad that I actually had to take small breaks to rest my hand. That's how uncomfortable the controls are. And on top of that, Luigi auto-locks on ghosts now. Well, I guess that can be kind of helpful in some scenarios. It's mostly really annoying if you're trying to suck up something else or just face a certain way. And do you want to know how turning the poltergust works? You use this tiny little nub, and my god, this is absolute hell on your thumb. If you're watching this and you happen to have a pencil with an eraser nearby, first off, I don't know why you're sitting next to a pencil, but I'm proud of you for that. And if you are that person, I want you to grab that pencil. Okay, you got it in your hand. I want you to start pushing down on the eraser and jiggle it around. And do that for the rest of this video's length. By the end, I guarantee that your thumb skin is gonna feel raw and deflated like my thumb. That's what it feels like to use this nub. But hey, at least there's kind of a solution here. To make catching ghosts easier, you can use the strobe bulb from Dark Moon. This makes zapping a ghost without getting away a lot easier, since just casually moving in a ghost's direction no longer reveals its heart. All I can say is that I am so glad that option was included. It made finishing the 3DS version a bit easier. But can we talk about the frame rate? It runs fine for the most part, but look at how bad the frames get during the cutscenes. And why are the ghosts so much more transparent as well? I really don't see a benefit to play this on anything but a GameCube. I mean, really. But I can at least appreciate that the map screen being displayed at all times is pretty handy. And you know what's really crazy too? Our pumping actually works in the 3DS port. You'd think that an exploit like this would have been fixed, but no, it functions exactly the same and made playing through slightly faster. But what has changed is a part of the story, because this game has co-op and Luigi makes a brief appearance, which is really odd, but the story itself now has 2 EGADs and they both exist in 2 different time periods, and at some point we're talking to the Dark Moon EGAD from the second game? What? There's really not much else to say about this port. It's mostly just weird small changes. Like, take Blue Losses here. For some reason, you can actually suction him towards the unicorn now, which is a really nice quality of life update. So, as you'd expect, I beat the game once again, and it took a total of 4 hours and 44 minutes. It was a bit slower than I was hoping for, but that's okay. I was ready to move on to the next game. Okay, 41. Oh no, it was so close. Oh no. Oh, that's not good. You might be wondering, why did I get a B rank and not an A rank? Well, I'll tell you, I made one teeny tiny error. And that was forgetting to water the backyard plant outside. And it's not that I forgot entirely, I forgot to do it one time. Literally just one time. Do you want to know how much money I missed out on because of this? 20 million G. The only reason I didn't get an A rank is because of this stupid plant that you have to water at specific points in playing. So I wasn't really sure what to do. I mean, I literally did everything to get 100% except water one plant. So do I try again or move forward? Well, here's the thing. I've already chewed up so much time playing these first 2 games. 100 hours goes by a lot faster than 1 week, so I guess I'll just keep going. I decided to move forward with Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. To 100% this, I need to collect all Poltergust upgrades, collect all 65 gems, and get all 32 boos. The only thing that won't be required to do is get 3-star ranks on the levels. They're not included in 100% speedruns, so I won't be doing them either. I'm also aware of the multiple Scarescraper ghosts that are exclusive to the Scarescraper mode, but that's not a part of the main campaign, so I'm not going to be going for those either. It would make this 100-hour challenge infeasible since the new ghosts show up completely randomly. To my surprise, the controls were a lot better than the 3DS version of the first game. I don't really know why, but moving around just felt more natural and better suited. But that's about all the highlights I've got here, because I really don't care for this game that much. It has 2 big flaws that make it a huge slog. For one, EGAD is constantly interrupting to tell you to do something, and when I say constantly, I mean that with all of my heart and soul. You'll play for 10 seconds, and then you hear ba 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 da da bum, and Luigi pulls out his dual scream and he's all like, "Yellow?" And EGAD says some shit you already knew. Oh my god, dude. And look, I don't hate the idea of EGAD helping players with controls and clues. It's probably a good thing. It's just infuriating how often he interrupts and you come to a full stop every time. It's in fact so infuriating that I actually spent hours going through all this footage and I wanted to see how much time was wasted. I ended up talking to EGAD 106 times, which chewed up a whopping 18 minutes of time. Wait, only 18 minutes? Okay, that's actually not as long as I thought it was gonna be. But that's just one flaw with Dark Moon. There's another big one. Instead of playing through the mansion normally, the entire game is mission structured. This means that you'll do a couple of tasks and then get booted out to EGAD's lab. I can't understate how annoying this is, because half the time when you go back into a mansion, you have to retrace your steps to do a slightly different task and then repeat that 5 times over. Why can't the missions all be one big mansion? Dark Moon has 5 mansions to explore, which is great, but the horrible mission structure with EGAD interrupting just completely destroys the game's pacing. Dark Moon is not a difficult game. In fact, it's far from it. The gravy is all in the pacing. It takes forever to get through it all. And since I'm 100%ing this game, it's even slower because I have to get all the hidden gems. These are pretty fun to go for though. A lot of them are hidden well and require you to figure out little puzzles. After getting all the gems, you get these cool looking trophy statues, so I'd say it's worth going for them. The only gems I didn't like doing was this one hiding in this cheeky little corner at World C's boss, which is stupid easy to miss, and then this one in World D4. You have to play the entire level, which takes 15 minutes, then go into this outhouse, and you have 1 minute to hit these ghosts with snowballs. The problem with that is just how bad the aiming is. Sometimes the reticle aims in the right spot, and sometimes it doesn't. The ghosts are barely on screen, and if you miss your shot, you have to wait the most painful 10 seconds of your life for another snowball to show up. And guess what? I missed out on the gem twice because I didn't finish on time due to the poor controls. But outside of those 2 gems being a little overdramatic here, I did like that they were included. Collecting boos, on the other hand, is a vastly different experience. You have to find it with a dark light, and then you suck up its tongue and it kind of bounces around the room it's in, and you just repeat that until it's sucked up. It's not as enjoyable compared to the first game, but at least he doesn't leave the area over and over. And speaking of Ghost, they really changed the style quite a bit. They look a lot more cartoony, and they even act more like kids themselves instead of trying to be scary. And yeah, I get this is a Nintendo game, but the style of Ghost from the first game just fit the mood a lot better. There's not even portrait ghosts, which is a huge bummer. You're basically fighting the same 5 or 6 ghost types the entire time. The bosses have been updated though, and I really like these a lot. You'll fight a huge spider, a massive knight, you got this icy face guy, which I don't know how to explain what it looks like, but yeah, the bosses are pretty fun, and they've all got unique methods to taking them out. And this is a bit of a weird thing to point out, but the map screen is so much better compared to Mansion 1 on 3DS. Luigi actually moves in real time, so it's slightly more convenient, and I can appreciate that. So while this game is super boring, I'm chugging through it. The only real problem at this point is just my hands cramping up. I've already brought up how uncomfortable it was to play Mansion 1 on 3DS. This is the same thing but 5 times longer, and it got to the point that I literally had to take handbrakes every 30 to 45 minutes because my palms were getting weak and sweaty, and for some reason my arms were getting kind of heavy. And can I just talk about the Toad missions? These are nice changes of pace, but they can be really silly sometimes. Like this Toad in World C has a fear of clocks. Yes, time, watches, clocks! Excuse me? I mean, well, okay, the more I think about it, time is kind of scary. It's the one element of our lives that we aren't able to control. It feels like it moves faster with the more aware you become of life. And then when you're in your 30s, you truly realize how fast it is. And by then, it's too late, and wait, hold on, where was I? Oh, yeah, Luigi. Now, I've talked a lot of smack about Dark Moon, but with everything I've said, I still think it's an alright game overall. It's something that's really best played in short spurts, but I don't have short spurts. I've got like 70-ish hours left on the clock. We're already a quarter of the way through the entire marathon. But I kept on persisting. I got through the levels that take like 8 years to finish and sucked up King Boo at the end. Which, by the way, this boss fight is so much better than the first game. There's a lot more variety, and it's honestly one of the best bosses in the entire series. So you might think that I'm done. Yeah, nuh-uh. Nope, no, I'm not done yet. Of course not. Despite playing this game for so damn long, I somehow did not get enough money to fully upgrade the Poltergust. So what I had to do was grind out the first level in the game until I eventually got enough money to upgrade. The grind didn't take a super long time, all things considered, but after how sluggish Dark Moon is, I was so ready for it to be over. So after like, I don't know, an hour or so, I unlocked the Super Poltergust and 100% the game in 12 hours and 55 minutes. So as you can see, it took quite a while to finish. I'm so glad it's over. Except that it's not! I get to play the Switch version now! To 100% Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, I need to collect all Poltergust upgrades, collect all 65 gems, and get all 32 boos. Just by looking at it, it's obvious that this remaster does the bare minimum. The only reason I enjoyed playing this game more is because the graphics are cleaned up, the frame rate is consistent, and the Pro Controller is infinitely more comfortable to use. But otherwise, it's the same damn game. It's kind of wild that the graphics weren't updated to at least look similar to Luigi's Mansion 3, which looks incredible. But no, instead we got a remaster that feels like it's being emulated. And honestly, for most people, that's gonna be enough. $60 is a bit expensive for it, but it makes sense why Nintendo charged that much for a remaster of this caliber. Luigi's Mansion 3 as of now has sold over 10 million copies, so there's clearly a high demand for this franchise. And that's also why Metroid Prime Remastered was sold for $40. The demand just isn't there. Yet I seize to understand why some people don't understand these basic economics, but anyway, I'm getting off track here. Now, since I just played this game, I should be able to get through it a little bit faster. There were a lot of moments in the 3DS version where I had to check my spreadsheet because I wasn't sure where a gem was, but now I'm going to remember their hiding spots a bit better. What really baffles me about this remaster is they could have fixed a couple of glaring issues. Like, here's an example. Instead of EGAD stopping you in your tracks to tell you something, couldn't a dialogue box of what he was going to say pop up instead? Like, maybe just leave the DS interruptions to only super important announcements? I don't know, could have helped a little bit. And then there's the whole mission structure. Nothing's changed about it, when this whole game could have been reworked to all be one big level for each mansion. Just those two changes would have made this an outstanding remaster, at least to me. Man, I gotta tell you, I was so ready to move on. It just felt like I was trapped in Luigi's Mansion 2 purgatory. No matter how much progress I was making, the end goal just seemed to stretch itself for as long as the eye could see. And it didn't help that I got stuck on the same gem from the 3DS version, although I think it was just me being tired and also a skill issue. But in general, I was playing faster, and I was also more aware of sucking up multiple ghosts at once. The reason you want to do this is you get a lot more money out of them compared to just one at a time. So by trying to do this, I only had to grind for like 20 minutes for the Super Poltergust compared to the hour on the 3DS. On top of that, I got the Super Poltergust before finishing the whole game, so that way the longest level and final boss would be easier. And boy howdy, the Super Poltergust is crazy! I couldn't believe how quickly ghosts get sucked up. The power and speed is so much faster. It was honestly a nice way to wrap things up, because I eventually finished with a time of 10 hours and 18 minutes. So while it was faster, I did not have much time left and needed to get through Mansion 3 as quick as possible. It all comes down to the final game, Luigi's Mansion 3. To 100% this, I need to collect all 102 gems, get all 16 boos, and get an A rank. All I can say is that I'm beyond thrilled to move on to Mansion 3. This game is freaking awesome, and it fixes pretty much every problem that the second game has. There's no stupid missions, portrait ghosts have returned, and EGAD doesn't interrupt you nearly as often. And it's just gorgeous looking. Like, legitimately, some of these cutscenes look like they come out of a movie. The one big qualm I've noticed people bring up is the combat. Sucking up ghosts is the same as usual, but now you can slam them into the ground. This not only does a lot of damage, but you can also attack and stun other ghosts around you. While this new way of combat has simplified things a good amount, you can't deny how satisfying it can be. Just smacking the absolute crap out of ghosts and throwing them into objects that get obliterated on top of that, it's simply pure fun. The gems and boos function pretty similar to how they did in Dark Moon. The main difference is that finding the boos are a bit harder. There's one on each floor, and you have to use your controller and feel for which spot has the strongest rumble. It was kind of confusing at first, but after a couple floors, it's pretty easy to spot them. Getting an A rank also isn't as scary this time around. Money can't vanish away from one mistake, but you really need to suck up everything around you. There's a finite amount of cash, and you'll need to check every nook and cranny. Now, that might sound a bit tedious to do, but it's actually not in the slightest. Something about the way Luigi sucks up stuff and how objects move around is intensely gratifying. You're rewarded incredibly well for trying to find all the cash. I probably could have spent several more hours cleaning up each room, but the time was ticking. I started this game with less than a day to go, and I still had to sleep. So the crunch to finish was starting to feel real. While I was mentally feeling good about finishing on time, I already knew that it was gonna be close. And I haven't even gotten into Luigi yet, who's by far the best Mario character to ever exist. Luigi can pass through spikes and walls with gaps, and is used for a lot of puzzles. Using Luigi and Gooigi for boss battles and puzzles is pretty intuitive. You wouldn't think that adding a second character would change the game up that much, but he really adds a lot to the puzzles and how different they are compared to the first and second games. And my god, the floors in this hotel are beyond creative. The entire dance floor is amazing. Then you've got this huge and extravagant pyramid area, and you gotta love how they brought back the gym theme from the first game and made an entire floor around it. And don't even get me started on the film floor where you're on set and reenact a Godzilla scene as a boss. This game is simply amazing, but it was hard for me to really grasp that in the moment. My time was ticking fast, and it got to the point where I only had 10 hours left. But forget about that. Guess what got announced while I was playing the marathon? Shrek 5, baby! Aw, yeah! All we really got was this dancing 5 for 10 seconds, but I was freaking stoked! After all this time, we're finally getting a new Shrek, and it's got the original cast! Man, I'm so excited for it. Although honestly, I have no idea what they could even do for a 5th movie. Shrek Forever After wraps up with Shrek almost losing his entire life to a Rumpelstiltskin contract. I mean, that's pretty intense. Like, how are they even gonna top that? The only thing I can really imagine is that Shrek and Fiona's kids have grown up a bit and they're teenage ogres. But what the hell does a teenage ogre look and act like anyway? I feel like that could be interesting, honestly. Like, maybe Felicia's dating some ogre guy behind Shrek's back, and then Shrek finds out and gets super mad at her for betraying his trust? Or maybe Shrek and Fiona have a divorce? Dude, that would be a crazy premise for a Shrek movie. And then the plot comes from the kids' perspectives of having to live the life of going between mom and dad. That's a story we haven't really seen told from an animated film like this one, but I don't know, maybe that's a bit too dark. But hey, Shrek's always been about breaking the norm, so... Wait a minute, where were we? Oh yeah, right, Luigi's Mansion 3, I forgot. How long did I talk about Shrek? Oh my god, only 5 hours? Dude, this is actually coming down to the wire. I've been getting the gems along the way, but what's taking so long is the fact that I have to slow down and keep collecting money. I'm pretty close to A rank, but I need 70,000 G to reach it. It wasn't until the very final floor when I finally got enough cash and was set in stone to finish. With mere hours left, all I had left to do was tackle King Boo. And let me tell you, this is by far the worst King Boo fight in the whole franchise. Maybe that's a bit overdramatic, you say? Well, there's one thing that ruins the entire fight. This silly little timer makes the King Boo fight one of the most annoying in the whole game. Now, of course, I am fatigued from being a degenerate for 96 hours straight, but the timer really ruined the fight for me. While avoiding King Boo's attacks, he'll occasionally throw bombs that you have to throw back at King Boo to hit him. Now, have you noticed anything particular about this fight? Yeah, see that fun little reticle that pops up? The same reticle from the second game that I hated so much? Yeah, it's pretty much the same targeting system. And that is an absolute pain in the ass. Hitting King Boo feels completely random. Sometimes the reticle works and sometimes it doesn't. So I redid this King Boo fight like, I don't know, several times in a row. And the only reason was because of the timer. You basically get like 2 or 3 attempts to hit King Boo in this final phase. And because the targeting system is so unreliable, it felt like pure dumb luck when it actually worked. What? Bro, that was literally luck. You don't even understand. I threw that on a whim. See? Look at that! Like, how on earth did I target the Boo that was the most far away? Okay, you know what? Whatever. It's done. I don't care anymore. I 100% Luigi's Mansion 3 in 15 hours and 46 minutes, and I had a total of 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 41 seconds to spare. That, my friends, is what we call in the business a close one. A very, very close one. Wow. That was kind of crazy. I'm still kind of bummed that I missed getting the A rank in the 3DS version of Luigi's Mansion. So I guess I technically failed the challenge because of that. But I still feel like I did as well as I could, given the amount of time that I had for this. While Luigi doesn't have as many games dedicated to himself, the ones that exist are all very unique and diverse. This list includes any games that are just about Luigi, and it's based off how fun they are to play. So with that, let's get her ranked. 12. Luigi's Hammer Toss. Yes, this is technically the very first Luigi game. He got a Game & Watch game in 1990, which was a couple years before Mario was missing on the NES and SNES. The Game & Watch is literally a watch. It even tells the time if your Apple Watch isn't up to snuff. Hammer Bros are chucking hammers at the ground, and Luigi must bounce them away with his shield. If you miss 5 times, then game over. The buttons are surprisingly responsive, but the gameplay is just about as shallow as possible. You'll get bored of this within like 5 to 10 minutes. And that's assuming you can even find this watch. They cost hundreds of dollars, and you'll have to go to a watch store like I did to replace the batteries since it'll be dead by now. But hey, you get this sweet La Cucaracha music at the beginning. Okay, I think I'm over this now. 11. Mario is Missing SNES. I'm sure you all have heard of this game before. It's one of the thousands of educational games that came out in the 90s, this one starring Luigi. It starts off promising, using some nice looking Mario World sprites, but you aren't jumping from level to level. Now, look, you won't believe the story when I tell you this. I think it's best to simply read the excerpt from Mario Wiki. In his latest scheme, Bowser decides to flood the Earth with hairdryers from have-to-have-it mail order to melt Antarctica. In order to buy the hairdryers, Bowser has his Koopas travel all over the world and steal various important landmarks he plans to sell. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi follow Bowser to Antarctica to stop him. I have so many questions about this plot. What's Bowser's motivation to do this? Why not use the sun's energy to melt Antarctica? Why is Bowser buying hair dryers from Have-to-Have-It specifically? But most importantly, why in the would Bowser use hair dryers to do this? Sorry, what a bizarre plot point for a video game in general, you know? But on to the actual game. Luigi has to collect these stolen artifacts and return them to the right places. This is done by jumping on Koopas and answering trivia questions about the landmarks. For an educational game, this is a pretty boring way of going about teaching kids this stuff. And what's worse, some of the trivia facts are straight up wrong. I mean, wow, what's the point of playing to learn if you can't even rely on the information being accurate? You can't expect much enjoyment out of something like this because it was built as an educational game, but it can't even bother to do that well. 10. Mario is Missing NES. It's basically the same game, but has less characters and less cities to explore. It also looks slightly worse, but that's to be expected. With that said, that could make this version better because the game already sucks as it is, and having less to play is, better? Honestly, both titles are very similar and could be interchanged fairly easily. 9. Luigi Bros. This technically counts as a Luigi game too. It's literally just the arcade version of Mario Bros, but with Luigi as the main character. This is playable through Super Mario 3D World, and honestly, it's not that fun. The controls are horribly stiff. Jumping is awkward because you don't have much control of where you're going in the air. If you want to leap forward, you have to get a running start or you'll just jump in place. I appreciate that there's a 2-player mode, but if you're gonna play Mario Bros, just bust out the Super Mario Advance versions. Those are by far the superior way to play this classic title. 8. Super Luigi Bros. Nope, it isn't just a reskin of Super Mario Bros, it's actually featured exclusively in NES Remix 2. This game is Super Mario Bros, but mirrored. Luigi also has a higher jump, which changes the gameplay slightly. And I mean that, even just tapping the jump button launches Luigi into the air, which I kind of hate because of how forced it feels. Just tapping jump shouldn't launch Luigi this high in the air, just a tiny little bit. It also feels weird running to the left the whole time, but it's a novel idea that I'm surprised Nintendo took decades to try out. Since this is Mario Bros. 1, the physics are basically the same. Super Luigi Bros. Is still playable, but naturally it feels a bit wonky. Side note though, I'm digging this Luigi background. It's pretty clean looking, even though that has nothing to do with the game itself. Now, if you're wondering what happens when you save Peach, Mario is standing right behind her. She just says, "Thank you, Luigi, your quest is over," which is traditional, but doesn't make sense with the context of Mario beating him to the punch. 7. Dr. Luigi, because why not, right? At least Nintendo tried something different with this game with a brand new mode called Operation L. It's exactly like the normal mode, but the pills are all shaped like L's. I love how the pills are still in their wrapping case. Luigi doesn't even bother to take them out. This new mode definitely changes the gameplay in an interesting fashion, but I don't think it warrants that much celebration. This could very easily have been a side mode in a normal Dr. Mario game, but this was the Year of Luigi, so they had to do something, I guess. If you played Dr. Mario Online, this game is extremely similar to that one. Even the menu and graphic style is virtually the same. If you don't like Luigi's new mode, Retro Remedy is the same classic formula we're all used to. There's also Virus Buster, which is a touchscreen version of Dr. Mario. This one is okay, although most people will try this once and never touch it again. For what it's worth, it's surprising how fun it is. It really only plays well because of the Wii U's gamepad. The online battles are pretty cool too. At the time, matches were smooth with little to no lag issues, but since it's on the Wii U, nobody's really playing this anymore. But it was a solid online experience while it lasted. This isn't a bad Dr. Mario game, but there's better options out there. 6. Luigi's Mansion Arcade. I've been lucky enough to play this one at an actual arcade. This seems like such a hard to come by machine too. We've all played light gun games in the arcade at some point in our lives, but this one is a little different. It's a mashup between light gun and Luigi's Mansion. Per usual, you'll stun ghosts by using a strobe bulb. The burst of light freezes the ghosts, and from there you'll suck them up for points. If there's too many ghosts at once, you can hit the strobe bomb to stun all of them. After pulling on ghosts enough, a meter will fill up, allowing you to use Power Surge to increase your power. Now, despite how fun this is, it really depends on how good of condition the machine is in. It's really satisfying physically aiming down the ghosts and sucking them up, but that's only if the machine is functional. The game's graphics and locations are based on Dark Moon, which may turn off some people since the original Luigi's Mansion aesthetic was generally more beloved, but I think it looks pretty great as it is, and it sounds good too. Since it's a light gun game, you don't get to freely move around, outside of occasionally picking directions in the mansion. But for an arcade game, it's a really neat novelty that everyone should get the chance to try. 5. New Super Luigi U. Maybe this is considered a Mario game, seeing as it's an expansion of New Super Mario Bros. U, but it's got Luigi in the name, so it felt right to include this. Mario Bros. U is a pretty solid 2D platformer despite its lack of creativity, and Luigi U is kind of on the same page. The only difference is each level is bite-sized and more challenging. The shorter length really helps stages feel better condensed, and the difficulty is interestingly selective. You'll likely be able to blaze through most of these stages, but getting all the star coins can be tricky with 100 seconds on the timer. A lot of them are out of the way and / hard to reach, but if you're struggling, then you can play as Nabbit. Yeah, he's playable in this game and he's invincible to every enemy. The only drawback is he can't use power-ups, but that hardly matters when you're a running god. As you'd expect, Luigi has a higher jump and longer slide, but you can also switch to Mario's physics if you don't like it. Now, fun fact of the day, there's actually a brand new enemy that came from this expansion, and that is the Big Eep Cheeps. Yep, that's it. Just that one fish boy. You'll also be able to spot hidden Luigis in each level, and that's a pretty neat Easter egg since this was unveiled during the Year of Luigi as well. 4. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, or known as Luigi's Mansion 2 in Europe. A sequel to what was originally supposed to showcase the GameCube's technology, Luigi is back with the Poltergust in handheld form. EGAD needs your help again as the Dark Moon shatters into 5 pieces, and each piece magically ends up in 5 different mansions. The gameplay is basically the same as the first game. Run around rooms, blast the ghosts with light to suck them up, and collect a bunch of money. You're also able to jump when sucking, and use the Dark Light device, which gives off a rainbow aura to find booze or invisible objects. The core gameplay still feels really good, and it's fun exploring each room to see which objects are interactable and contain money or ghosts. Instead of the Game Boy horror for your map, we get the dual screen, so that's fun if you're into the dad puns. Now, this game has had some criticism over the years, the main issues being the mission structure and ghosts. Unlike the first game where you can more freely roam around the mansion, Dark Moon is completely linear. That might not sound like a bad thing, but it honestly makes the world feel less immersive. Now, I get why they did it. This was on the 3DS and the goal was to play for little bits at a time, but it definitely loses some of the original game's fun. By the end, it starts to feel like a chore. Some people also complain about the ghosts and how the graphics are too cartoony, and I kind of get that issue, but this is also a kid's game, so I don't really think the change is that big of a deal. The bosses are definitely not as good. Like, they aren't bad per se, but nothing is as memorable as the ones from the original game. Polterpup is one of the best new characters. He's this adorable little ghost puppy that's kind of Luigi's friend, but he's kind of a pest as well. But there's more than the main campaign. You can also unlock Scarescraper, which is an awesome multiplayer mode where you'll go from floor to floor and suck up a ton of ghosts. Or you'll find and capture all the Polterpups on each floor. There's 4 different modes to try out. 3. Luigi's Mansion 3. By far one of Nintendo's best looking games yet, and it's not even a mainline Mario or Smash Bros. It's Luigi and Gooigi sucking up ghosts and climbing up a hotel to save Mario and Peach. Like, seriously, the cutscenes in this game look like they came straight out of a movie. It's genuinely impressive. Helen Gravely frees King Boo. That's the gist of the story. It introduces a new character while still retaining the ones we love to see, like King Boo. The Poltergust G00 is almost the same as the one in Dark Moon, although it adds a suction shot which releases a plunger that's used to pull certain objects around the game. One of the biggest changes gameplay-wise is the slamming. After sucking up a certain amount of a ghost, you're able to slam them into the ground or other ghosts to do extra damage. This feels immensely satisfying, and it even throws in a new strategy since you want to try to attack other ghosts that are nearby. The only dilemma with this is that it's a tad bit overpowered. You aren't forced to use the slamming, but it's so convenient that you'll do it naturally every time. The ghost designs are once again more cartoony like in Dark Moon, but honestly, I still like how they look. What's awesome to see return are the bigger, badder boss ghosts. These are by far some of the best boss fights we've seen in a Nintendo game. DJ Phantasmagloria is a female jokey diva ghost, Captain Fishhook is a shark ghost, Serpkey is a pharaoh ghost. What more do I need to say? These boss fights feel epic and like a special event, which is exactly what bosses should strive to be. And I haven't even talked about Gooigi yet. He can be used to walk across spikes or go through sewer drains, and is a surprisingly intuitive character. He doesn't feel slapped on or anything, but more of a direct enhancement to the puzzles in each room. Speaking of the rooms, they are jam-packed with things to do and collect. There is a ton of money to grab, and it feels amazing to just suck it all up. It's the same junky euphoria from collecting coins in New Super Mario Bros. 2, but even better. The multiplayer is also back and just as fun as it was in Dark Moon, if not more so. Scarescraper can be played online and runs great, and Scream Park offers a bunch of interesting multiplayer modes. The only problem with this game is it does drag along at times. Some segments can feel overdrawn. Like, I loved the whole pyramid floor, but it just seemed to never end. Polterpup constantly taking floor buttons was also a pain since it just felt like a way to pad out game time, and the game itself is more or less linear. There's some diversity in what paths you can take at the beginning, but it's not to the same extent as the original. Speaking of... 2. Luigi's Mansion 3DS. I'm still not sure why this wasn't ported to the Switch, but alas, it's a remake of one of Nintendo's most cherished titles. It's virtually the same game, but with a few updates here and there. My personal favorite being the map screen that's constantly displayed on the bottom. I've only played through Luigi's Mansion a couple times, so I haven't memorized where everything is, which means I was constantly pausing in the original game to check. Now, I can just glance at the bottom and move forward. Plus, there's stereoscopic 3D, which can be helpful with aiming and giving each room bathroom more depth. The graphics have also been spruced up quite a bit. The textures are more lifelike despite being on a handheld. You can also use the strobe bulb from the newer games if you want to. It's a neat little bonus. Heck, you can even play the game in co-op. While this all sounds nice and dandy, there are some minor frame drops in some portions of the game. The biggest issue, however, is how ghost sucking feels. It works the same as it does in the original, but the circle pad does not give as satisfying of feedback as it does with a GameCube controller. It doesn't feel like you're really wrestling with the ghost, which isn't really the game's fault, it's just how the 3DS itself is designed. It's still perfectly playable, but when your main game mechanic doesn't feel great, that automatically makes it slightly worse. 1. Luigi's Mansion GameCube. Not really a shocking pick here, but the original is simply where it's at. Mario gets trapped inside a mansion, so Luigi goes in to save his chonky bro. Most Mario games aren't filled with personality, as gameplay is the centric focus. This is perfectly fine for something like a platformer, and especially back in the 80s and 90s when graphics were more primitive. Luigi's Mansion, on the other hand, breathes life into a character that most people didn't think twice about. Luigi is a scaredy cat. You can see it with the way he waddles around the floor, jumps from every ghost, hums the theme song. It's honestly so adorable. You can't help but love Luigi for his bravery to save his brother, despite being petrified of everything. Sucking up ghosts feels incredible as well. The controls just mesh together perfectly and create a really engrossing gameplay loop. This is because the damage you do on Ghost is reliant on each individual direction on the joystick, which has an analog feel to it due to the GameCube controller's design. It may not have all the new gear from the newer games, but what it does have is a more open feeling world. There's no mission screen after beating a portrait ghost. You just get the keys and proceed. Speaking of portrait ghosts, these are all really fun to fight. You got Chauncey, the spoiled baby that shrinks you and attacks with rocking horses. Mr. Lug spits heartburn at you. Henry and Orville attack with a toy plane and car. These boss ghosts are something special. You also have the option to catch boos, which is different from the other ghosts because you can't trap them while initiating the suck. I've never tried catching all the boos because half the time they leave the room and you have to chase them around the mansion like a big idiot. It's really the only part of the game that I don't enjoy, but the boos are optional, so it's not that big a deal. This may not be the best Nintendo game of all time, but it's definitely one of the most charming. Warning! The following video is over-exaggerated. Most opinions shared aren't accurate to my thoughts and feelings, because who doesn't love watching Luigi get scared of cartoon ghosts? It's pretty lamau.
Ancient.
Nintendo? Why was that scary? You know what's scary? Being reminded there's a Pikmin trailer in this game and there hasn't been a new Pikmin in years. Luigi's Mansion only existed as a fleshed out tech demo. That's very disrespectful to Luigi. His first starring role was Mario is Missing, and now this. Wait, does the key change in size? It looks so big when Luigi grabs it, but then when it's in the keyhole, it's way smaller. You know, why couldn't EGAD have just made a ton of these poltergeists and then sent out an army of, I don't know, Delfino officers? Because they seem kind of tough instead of scaring poor Luigi half to death. Oh yeah, this ghost is about to spit out a hot DJ beat.
Here we go.
I should get a Game Boy Horror. My Game Boy Color can't make images look this smooth and saucy. Luigi has the goofiest run cycle, and his nose bobbles when he's running. That's gotta hurt. You only do two things in Luigi's Mansion. 1, check for interactive objects, and 2, suck up the ghost. By searching your Game Boy Horror at a mirror, you go back to the foyer. Okay? Luigi saying that he's always wanted a fan is actually much deeper than you'd think. Back in the day, the spotlight was always on Mario, and Luigi was just a generic player too, so this signifies his need for support and love for others. I'm sorry, but it really does look like Luigi humps the chest to open them. Of course, the baby of all the portrait ghosts is the creepiest one, with the floating teddy bears and getting mysteriously shrunk down in size. Someone needs to replace that shower head. It barely spews water anymore. Why does Luigi care this much about dust on some random painting? I like how EGAD does jumping jacks when talking to Luigi. Once local Waltz champions, they can't compete since their feet don't touch the floor. Well, no duh, that would be cheating. The boos are a pain in the butt to collect because you can't really trap them in your vacuum, and half the time they disappear into different rooms. There's something disturbing about a toad furiously crying on the floor of a degrading bathroom. I have to ask, how did they fit all this treasure through this teeny tiny hole? I know the ghosts are the bad guys, but when you capture these things, they get squished, then electrified, and forced into a painting they they can't escape. That is kind of gruesome, you gotta admit. I noticed this cereal is called what I think says boof, so I looked up the word. And, okay, I did not expect that. Wait, but then this box says food. Which is the real box? Is anything even real? So we see that Mario is trapped in this painting, but later on we find this glove in this chest. You know, he's already wearing the gloves. I don't get this. What is going on? Oh, Luigi, you perv, don't you dare. Yep, you get what you deserved, pal. Why does Egad have only one tooth? Well, probably because he eats pickled dandelions with barnacles and a diesel marinade. Ugh. Luigi's shadow is hanging. This is dark even for Mario standards. Soup He died in her sleep at 7 years old. Do you know how guilty I felt sucking this ghost up? This ghost looks a lot like an Octowoomba. The average playtime is like 3 to 5 hours, and this was a launch game for the GameCube. Why is it so short? Warning. The following video is over-exaggerated. Most opinions shared aren't accurate to my thoughts and feelings. Cause it's Ouija time. The Green Plumber's Poltergust has double the suck power. Even if the ghosts are friendly, there is no way I'd be in a giant room full of them. Well, hold on a second. How did King Boo get out of the painting? Yeah, he should still be trapped from the first game. Did Egad really have to scare the daylights out of Luigi? I love how Luigi clearly doesn't want to help Egad out, but then gets sucked into a TV and mutated into pixels. So the communication device this time around is the DS, which is cool, but why is it the original bulky one? A DS Lite or DSi would be more fashionable. The phone call music slaps, but Egad calls you like every 5 minutes. I'm not even kidding! I just realized something. How is Luigi and Egad getting away with taking all this money from the mansions? The IRS would be very suspicious to see their income drastically increase so much, so I guess they would have to launder their money out to avoid getting caught. How is a ghost holding a physical object? If your key is vanishing into thin air after using it, it's time to invest in some new locks. So Dark Moon is mission structured now, since this is a handheld title, which makes sense in theory, but really it just breaks the pacing and is less immersive overall. Sucking up ghosts just doesn't have the same pizzazz as the GameCube. There's little sense of pulling a ghost into the poltergust. How is the sheets and pillows still on the bed after getting flipped 90 degrees? Only Luigi would step into a fireplace expecting nothing to happen. All I'm seeing here is Squilliam's ghost. Aiming the polterguster is alright since you can use the gyro to help assist you, but a lack of a second joystick still feels a little clunky. Why are we using fire to burn spider webs? We're not breaking through thick wood, it's spider webs. This mansion has a bigger spider problem than ghost, by the way. I mean, look at this. I'll be tracking your progress from the relative warmth and comfort of this bunker. Alright then, f you.
Hello?
And that's why Luigi never used an elevator again. The first boss is incredible and requires fun puzzles and action to complete, but right after that is this basic stairs thing where you pull the rope and suck up the ghost. Talk about inconsistent quality. There's really not that many ghost types compared to the first game. It's the same handful over and over again. There's something hilarious about Luigi getting splashed with water. Hey Toad, I already got the ghost. Will you shut the hell up? I sure love climbing this staircase, only to pick the wrong one and fall all the way back to the bottom. Dude, can you not? I'm busy here. Sorry. I was just practicing. I miss having portrait ghosts. The bosses and mini-bosses just don't cut it. The Polterpup is a great character, but I hate chasing him. It feels like a chore every time. Luigi fits all of this in his pants. Dark Moon has some serious frame rate drops, and I know it's on 3DS, but it drops to like 10 FPS at times. So Egad has 734,958 Toads as employees, and to think that he pays for them by stealing money from mansions and laundering it all is the biggest scheme the Mushroom Kingdom has ever seen. If you stand in this one spot, you can infinitely kill Toad, and I'm okay with that.
Oh. Hello? 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 Hello?
Luigi is so lovably stupid. Oh my god, King Boo got out of his painting because EGAD sold it. What a greedy, stupid Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is a decent game with lots of charm and new ideas, but again, the pacing dampens it. Getting stopped constantly with the mission structure and EGAD calling every 5 frickin' minutes makes the game worse than it deserves to be. Dude, will you stop with the You okay? Oh no. Hello?
Hey Nathaniel, thanks for picking up. As you can see, I died. The Orb of Power is allowing me to speak through here, and that you can save me by finding my ghost and returning it to my body.
Is this some kind of sick joke? Hello, Bandy. What's wrong? Hello? Come on, Bandy. Let's strive for originality together. Where are you?
So that was my ghost. It lives off the negative energy in my soul. Please try to return me to my body with your vacuum cleaner.
Okay. Where did you go? Where are you? Oh, you want to play hide and seek. Come out, come out, come out. Hello? What's wrong? All right, pal. Playtime's over. No, 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 stop, stop. Oh, God, oh, no, no. Why am I so... Oh my... Nathaniel! You got my message on the 3DS! Oh, it's good to be back. Look, I'm sorry about the whole piano thing and breaking into your house again, and look, I recently moved. All sorts of weird things have been happening with the Orb of Power. Look, you know what? How about we catch up? Maybe we can solve this. Dinner at my house. Dinner at my trees. Warning! The following video is over-exaggerated. Most opinions shared aren't accurate to my thoughts and feelings. There are some spoilers. You've been warned. So will you go Luigi time or Gooigi time? Or maybe both? You tell me. Why is it called Luigi's Mansion if it's technically a hotel? Am I playing a game or watching a movie? Because hot mama, these cutscenes are way nicer than they deserve to be. I'm not sure Toad should be behind the wheel considering he can barely see over it, and he's a crappy driver on top of that as he almost knocks the bus off. I know this is a nice hotel and all, but why would you go to the hotel when you have the Mushroom Kingdom? Yeah, they were invited, but isn't that just a little suspicious? Why on earth does Peach need 8 different bags of luggage? That's a little overkill if you ask me. Well, are you gonna take the cake or not? You don't need your mama for permission, just take it. Lady, I can't breathe. That is a big toilet for how small Luigi is. Well, what can you say, Luigi? Karma's a bitch.
Wow.
What great timing that Luigi just happened to find a polterguster inside a freaking car. Ah, I love when that happens. Only in Luigi's Mansion could you flash a light at a rat so it'll turn into a coin. This game is awesome. Being able to smack ghosts around is fun, but it's also super overpowered and dumbs down the combat for most of the game. And you can hit other ghosts with this, which stuns them and makes this even more broken. I will forever see envelopes with circles on the back as Smash invitations. King Boo for Smash when? I gotta say, I got no idea how EGAD's glasses aren't getting sucked in. Not only is EGAD handing me a freaking Virtual Boy, he also says, just wait until I finish the marketing materials on this. It'll fly off the shelves. Yeah. Hey Hey look, I found the missing trophies from Smash Bros. Ultimate. I can't get over that Luigi is forced to whip out the Virtual Boy to talk to EGAD. That honestly cracks me up. You know, this Luigi guy looks awfully familiar. Having to chase down these rats for a button is a pain in the butt. And they said money doesn't grow on trees. Ha! Look who's laughing now. Who added Mario 64 to my Luigi's Mansion, and who made it 10 times scarier? So what's with the low health beat being so loud? Like seriously, they turned down the music and everything. Apparently, entire coliseums can fit in hotels now. Holy crap, a Mario Strikers reference. Now I missed that series. Is this ghost hitting on Luigi? You can buy and hold quite a few gold bones, which is basically an extra life per bone. So essentially, you can stock up if you wanted and never get a game over. Fighting on floating rubber ducks isn't as fun as it sounds. Toad abuse. Okay, so maybe a very small coliseum could fit in a hotel, but a f***ing ocean. No! What the heck happened to that nice and smooth frame rate? There really is nothing scarier than a fitness center. Trying to get this ghost to hit the other ghost with the weight is so goddamn annoying.
Ooh. Ow, 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 ow.
This is way funnier than it deserves to be. The ghosts are dabbing. If this scene isn't replicated in real life at the upcoming Nintendo theme park, so help me, because this scene is epic. I love when we're heading to King Boo. Mario is like a little kid that's trying to drag his dad to buy a video game with his saved up allowance, and Luigi's just the old grumpy guy that's like, yeah, hold your horses, we're going, jeez. So my playtime for Luigi's Mansion 3 was around 8 hours, which wouldn't be that bad if this didn't cost $60. No. Alright, Ghost, I know karate, and I'm not afraid to... Oh, dude, that hurt. Nathaniel? Just a prank, it was... How did you do that? This thing? I think? Alright, you know what? Time to leave. Go to bed. Fine. Sorry, bro.